Will Ellis looks through his camera lens and sees the past. Ellis is a photographer and urban explorer, rummaging through New York's ruins to learn the tales they have to tell us.
And this is the New York City farm colony.
In the middle of Staten Island, remnants of a civilization that flourished 120 years ago and passed into history, a campus for the city's poor.
So the idea was they worked the land in exchange for their room and board. It all pretty much looks like this.
What it looks like is Dickensian.
So these partitions would have been, what, rooms?
Yeah, this is where the residents would actually live. So you can see really close quarters, but it was either that or, living on the streets.
At the dawn of the last century, as many as 200 residents grew enough vegetables here to feed thousands. But as the country prospered, the poor found better jobs. Replacements for the farm's aging workforce became scarce. The farm colony was abandoned in 1975.
This place, like more than any other, has become almost like a public space. The teenagers coming in here and doing graffiti, the paintballers out there building, obstacles for their games. So it's interesting to see what the public will do with the space when it's totally neglected and, kind of left up to them to decide how to use it.
Voices of another extinct population echo in this once abandoned railroad tunnel on Manhattan's Upper West Side. In the 1980s and 90s, this was the home of New York's mole people.
There were hundreds of people living down here at the time. They had some pretty intricate living spaces. They had pets, some of them, places to cook, electrical hookups. So it wasn't a bad place to live at one point.
A documentary was filmed about the mole people. There were countless television stories and at least 2 books, one by a journalist, another by an anthropologist. The mole people became celebrities. But when Amtrak resumed running trains here, the Society of Mole People ended.
We're in a tunnel, but if we were standing here 80 years ago, we'd be at street level and there'd be no roof.
And it was actually called Death Avenue at one point because so many people would get killed just crossing the street, be struck by trains.
To turn this slum into Mayfair, Robert Moses covered the train tracks, added tons of landfill, and created Riverside Park. Few visitors realize trains run below them in a tunnel that is famous as an iconic image of underground New York.
This area was once called Barren Island.
On a stretch of Brooklyn's shoreline lies an isolated area whose history Ellis calls ghoulish, with the ghastly name of Dead Horse Bay.
There were horse rendering plants where the city's dead carriage horses would be sent to be turned into glue and fertilizer.
That was in the 1850s. By 1900, this became a landfill, accepting all of the city's garbage. The landfill was capped in 1953, but 60 years of tides have uncapped it, revealing in bones and bottles and all manner of debris the history of a grim period in New York.
Will, you find beauty in decay?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that. I think it has to do with with death, in a way. How we're kind of simultaneously attracted to it and repulsed by it. And for some people, that just makes things more interesting, and they can find beauty in that.
Ellis has written a book about his explorations called Abandoned NYC. It contains dozens of his exceptional photographs, a timeless record of a city that is constantly changing.
I think that's why it's important to take a moment and take stock of what we have or what we're losing. It's important to document these places and remember their stories.
I'm Tony Guida for Arts in the City.